Welcome to the podcast, everybody. It's February 4th, 2025, and it's a cold night here in Antigonish. And we have a great guest on the show this evening.
Hello.
Yeah, this is my man, the entrepreneur, the friend, and an all around great guy, Rich Grant.
Hello, everybody. Janai, thanks for having me, man.
Of course, Rich. It's been a long time coming.
Absolutely.
I've been meaning to have you on since I started this
Since the
thing.
beginning.
Yeah, since the beginning, because you kind of have been, part of the mix since the beginning. Like you were here, we would be hanging out and just, I was working towards it this whole time, and you really saw it become from like that little thing in the room when I barely had like a light or anything to hang
Oh,
on
yeah.
the walls. Yeah, man, you've seen it all. So come a long way in a year, but so
It's
have you.
been an awesome origin story. Like, I remember probably a year and a half ago, 2 years. Remember you telling me, I remember you had the mic set up, you had your laptop in the other room there, and you're like, I think I'm going to start a podcast. And I was like, goddamn right, you're going to start a podcast.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's go.
Yeah, man.
And now
Yeah.
we've got this nice, beautiful, big-ass studio
Yep.
with UFC fights on the TV.
Yeah,
in
you
the
guys
background.
can't see that, but we're
Am-
watching the fights right
Ambient
now.
entertainment.
That's how we do it over here on Samson Podcast.
Yeah.
We watch right now we're watching the Yoel Romero versus Paulo Costa fight, which was an absolute war.
The Cuban experiment.
Yeah.
The people's champ.
He's in like GFL now or something.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Like 42 years old.
A bunch of guys who were like kind of on their downslide in the UFC all went to like GFL.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I'm sure they're getting paid great.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're getting paid well. Very well, man.
Yeah.
Very well. But Rich, thank you so much for coming, man. I really appreciate
No
it.
problem. I'm happy
so-
to be here.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
happy to see the podcast come from literally an idea
Yep.
in your bedroom to an actual podcast that's been around for a very successful year.
Yeah.
Very successful year.
Yeah. Thank
Interviewed
you,
the
man.
mayor of Antigonish.
I
was
did
pretty
interview
sick.
the
It was
mayor.
pretty sick.
Yeah, within
It
my
was-
first year.
The boys were pretty hype over that.
I think so. I think even the mayor was pretty hyped over that one.
Damn right he was.
And I wasn't expecting, to have him on in my first year, but it was really nice and kind of interesting. Like once you have the mayor on, every other interview feels a little
Now
less
you're
stressful.
legit. Yeah, now you're
yeah.
legit.
Yeah, I'm solidified. Exactly. Sanctified and solidified. So,
It's all good.
Rich, thanks for coming, man. And so you are the owner of Liven Protein.
Yes,
Okay. So
absolutely.
Liven Protein, what is that?
I grow probiotics.
You grow probiotics.
Yeah. Kefir is a super duper healthy gut friendly drink. It's literally a habitat of probiotic microbes, cultures as they call it. And I brew it into a super tasty protein shake. It's the only probiotic protein shake that exists. I make it with cold pressed coconut milk, a really nice, really clean grass fed whey protein. And we ferment them together a lot like beer or craft kombucha. So I've got a brewery set up and a kitchen that I rent across town. And we whip up a bunch of super tasty probiotic protein shakes, bring them to the farmer's market, all kinds of local shops all over the province.
Right. How many shops are you at right now?
Floating at about 10 different shops all over the place.
Crazy, man. I
Yeah.
remember when you were just like at the farmer's market,
Oh, yeah.
like
Yeah,
just
yeah. It's
slanging
been
on
a-
weekends.
It's been a journey.
Wow. So can you just kind of like tell us who your suppliers are right now?
I buy coconut and like whey protein. The suppliers on that angle aren't very spicy, but super quality stuff. I'm making my own coconut milk, so I try to be my own supplier as much as I can. Make
Right.
all my own make as much of my own ingredients as I can. Less travel, less input, less costs all over the place, and that's how you got to roll in 2025. If you don't make your own stuff, then you're not making stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. If you don't make stuff, there's not going to be any stuff.
There's not going to be any stuff. Exactly. If there's no risk, there's no risk.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
Exactly.
what are these businesses around Antigonish, Nova Scotia that are selling for you?
Absolutely. So, Liven Protein Kefir is available in Fresh Food Matters, first and foremost. Big fan of Angela.
Right down at the mall.
Absolutely. She's my very first wholesale location, so super hype on that. We've also got the Waffle Bus. Also, massive fans of the Waffle Bus. Started
Shout
out
out
right
the
here.
Waffle Bus.
Yeah, shout out Alex and Nicole, the whole Waffle Bus
Yeah.
gang. Both locations of the Waffle Bus in Antigonish, New Glasgow.
Unreal.
I'm also at the Sunflower Natural Health. Big fan of the crew there.
Yep.
Favorite health food store for sure. And I'm also at the Grindhouse. Just launching the Grindhouse recently.
Nice, man.
Pretty excited about that. Haven't done a demo booth there yet, but it should be pretty fun. I'm also at the Whistleberry Farm Market in, I guess you could technically say they're Pictou County. But
Okay,
anyway,
yeah.
I've got the snack market. Big Cove Foods snack market. I always think of them as Big Cove Foods. They sell like spices and stuff at Sobeys.
Yeah.
They've got a whole bunch of different seasonings, spices and stuff. They got a taco enhancer. Like if you're a fan of spices, you got to find the Big Cove taco enhancer. It is outrageous. It's really good taco spice.
Yep.
But they started a snack market. It's a couple from Pictou, and they started a snack market in Westville. Just launched with them in like November. And then also in the same area, I'm also in the Pictou County Wellness Center, the gym.
Nice.
And then we're in a couple stores in Halifax and Dartmouth as well.
Great, man. That's unbelievable. 10 whole stores, and you've been around for 5 years now?
Something like that. Well, we've made a big comeback in the last like year and a half. Coming off of a year off before that, and then while I was in school, just graduated from X in about like 2020, and I did about like kind of like a year and a half of essentially like product development, very very product development focused project starting off. Started right in the middle of the pandemic. Lost my job as a DJ because of the lockdowns, and started looking around thinking like, what am I doing here? What's gonna happen next?
Yep.
So got a Kefir culture gifted to me totally by accident. A family friend just said, hey, you don't have anything to do. No one has anything to do. Try some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm sitting here trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. Like, I don't need this more stuff to do.
Yep.
And then looked up online, like how to make kefir on YouTube. And then I was like, oh, damn, this stuff only takes 24 hours to ferment. Like, wait a second. Like craft beer, which is popping off in Nova Scotia. I moved home from Calgary, not to jump all over the place, which I will do. So
Yeah,
forgive
of
me.
course. Yeah, go ahead, brother.
Moved home from Calgary in 2019 to come back to school, and immediately noticed how intense the craft beer scene was in Nova Scotia compared to Alberta. I was blown away because I was like, every single corner has like these super unique drinks. They're all super duper tangy, extremely intense flavors. Like they're craft brewed, so it is like this is a living process. It's not just like, oh, I throw a bunch of ingredients in a bottle and then now I have a thing. Like it's something that has to be cultivated and grown. It's a lot different than making most food. Fermentation, super cool. Definitely check it out. Google.
Yeah.
But no, so I heavily inspired by craft beer, and I immediately, as soon as I saw kefir on the internet, I was like, oh wow, like this stuff ferments way faster than craft beer or wine. So I was like, well, it's got to be financially viable. Like you must be able to make a business out of it. If people can make a business out of craft beer or wine or God forbid the spirits. But anyway, I was intrigued, and I was a business student, and I was thinking like, man, like if I'm coming back to school just to like go to school, like I was never a fan of school ever in my entire life. I was never a student, never studious in any way, shape, or form. So coming back to school, I had lots and lots of doubts of like, can I even do this? Am I this type of person? To go to school, be educated and stuff, and I was like, I don't know. I gotta put my own spice on this somehow. So apparently, starting a business in school was the move. So didn't expect that going in, but it worked out. Started brewing away and took some very very early protein kefir prototypes to school. Had a business professor that was like extremely like excited about it and really what is the word? He was really instrumental and just really like fostered my own interest and fostered just the vibe and the business plan and all kinds of technical stuff. So huge shout out to Neil Malpe from the Stand of X Entrepreneurship crowd.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
man.
absolutely. took some samples to school, and people liked them a little bit more than I expected. And I didn't really know, but St. FX had like a whole startup like scene there where you can go and pitch your idea and like try and win some grants to get things going and get things moving. So we did a few of those.
Yep.
And we were able to fund like construction of a small kitchen over at the farmers market and make product that we sent off to a laundry list of laboratories to get tested. Kefir is a very unique beast in that it's got like dozens of probiotic strains, and they all need to be genetically verified with literal whole genome sequencing, so you know exactly what's there. And then also like bacteria count tests of various sorts. There's a whole bunch of different kinds. And we were able to get most of that. We were able to get tons of help with that. And then eventually launched at the farmers market, and we had a very, very warm reception, like right before one of the last lockdowns. We had like 3 weeks in, I think. And then we had like the second pandemic lockdown in like mid-May of like 2021, I think. And then had to like switch gears and try and figure out how to sell the stuff online. And like we had a like expensive kitchen to pay for now.
Yep.
Had a ton of success for 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden like now you have nearly no sales and figured out. Good luck. So it was definitely a roller coaster, top to bottom, start to finish.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. So that was your inspiration for getting it started, just kind of having free time.
Yes and no. I mean, starting the business like on the spot was like I had time to focus.
Right.
And
right.
Which.
But what was
really,
kind
really
of the
important.
impetus for the idea, rather?
So I had been looking into gut-friendly foods and gut-friendly products and just everything gut health for years and years and years.
Right.
Because I had a slew of very severe concussions when I was in my early 20s.
Yeah, right. I know about those.
Yes. So I had an absolute monstrous passion for extreme sports and martial arts, motorsports. And that's where I spent all my time and money and energy is just like, how do we train Muay Thai and hit big air dirt jumps and drift cars in the rain and all kinds of crazy stuff. But anyway, we had lots of fun, learned a lot, learned how to fix things, learned how to deal with fear, learned how to move, learned a lot about human health, and eventually after hitting my head a few times, was forced to learn about neuroscience and the gut microbiome, which was an absolute blessing in disguise. At the time, definitely did not think that, but it certainly was. I initially fell at work and hit my head like just a little bit, just enough to get like a little just minor concussion. And sometimes with concussions, that's all it takes, unfortunately. For anyone that doesn't know, like if you just shake your head hard enough, certain people can just receive concussion symptoms just from that. All a concussion is a brain shaken in a skull.
That's it. That's all.
Yeah. But so I fell at work and then had like a few concussion symptoms, but kind of didn't think much of it. I was like, I'm a big tough kickboxer. I'm gonna be fine with this. This is nothing. Deal with this kind of stuff all day. But then I was out west at the time, so I came home, and when anyone from the East Coast, you come home from out west, you don't just sit around and eat spinach kale shakes tight out. No, you go party your ass off.
That's right.
And that's not what you're supposed to do if you have a concussion or if you hit your head. So steep learning curve. I didn't know anything about how to treat any of that stuff before I had it. Obviously, test comes first, and then you learn the lesson afterwards, right?
Right.
But anyway, fell once, and then was kind of in denial about being in a concussed state. So kept kickboxing and sparring at Muay Thai, which was definitely not the right answer. And then found something was going wrong pretty abruptly after several sparring matches where I was forgetting where I was and some crazy symptoms like that.
Yeah, man, it's not good.
No, but didn't get knocked out. Not even dropped. Not even wobbled.
That's good though.
Yeah, but I decided to take a step back from kickboxing. Winter of like 2014, started 2015. I wanted to go super serious into kickboxing. Obviously hit some snags. So I was like, let's chill out on this. Let's just go learn how to snowboard instead. Getting like hit in the head isn't like at a direct part of this sport. So
Right, right.
this seemed like
Yeah.
a logical, safe idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
So went out and got myself a snowboard and a bunch of gear. Super excited. All my mountain biking buddies snowboarded in the winter. So we're like, all right, we're going to Wentworth or going to learn how to snowboard. And I'd done some longboarding beforehand. So I was like halfway decent standing up on a board and stuff. But
Okay.
anyway, just like started out completely full send, going as fast as I could, like wiping out all over the place. But I was just like, whatever, I'm falling in a bunch of snowbanks. This is easy. For the start at least. Got a couple solid weeks in though, and was going super fast down this one hill and caught an edge and spun around, smoked the back of my head, landed on the exact same part of my head that I hit when I fell at work the first time. So with concussions, like the part of your brain that is injured has a massive impact on the symptoms you're going to experience because it's the part of your brain that is damaged will exhibit the concussed symptoms, which can range from like a little bit of every neurological issue on the planet and all the mental health issues all combined in varying degrees to depending on who you are essentially. Super complicated, but not to make this a neuroscience concussion lesson.
But we're explaining how you got to the point of wanting to
absolutely
begin this process.
So
it's relevant.
After it's relevant. Cliff notes though.
Yeah,
Cliff notes.
perfect.
But no, so after spending like several months to like a year in like a quiet, dark room, realizing like, oh, it actually takes a lot of energy to use a brain because it's the most expensive, biggest organ you have and uses all like 20% of your energy at least. And then if you have a concussion, that can go up to 30% plus sometimes because your brain's trying to heal, but you can't turn your brain off. Yeah. So it's got to heal while it's on, which is really kind of stresses people's ability to even comprehend what's going on there. And then, so I kind of just had to go from like being a super social person doing tons of extreme sports to just like hide in a dark room for about a year because sound hurts.
So that must have been difficult.
Absolutely, yeah. I was like 20, 21, 22 at the time. Definitely wanted to be out socializing, having a time, living my life, trying to decide my path in life. But instead I was kind of taken back to just a recovery zone, essentially. And the type of person that I was just wanting to go.
Yeah.
And concussions are uniquely difficult for folks that are extremely rambunctious and like to move a lot and do a lot of stuff. Definitely like undiagnosed ADHD to the moon, but we manage. So spent many months in just kind of sensory deprivation, trying to just give my brain time and space to heal. But it really wasn't working because I had essentially taken like about 6 minor concussions over the course of about 6 months. Just being super stubborn, which really it's a superpower if you use it the right way. Being super stubborn,
right?
But
those
it's
are
not
lessons, and you learn from those lessons instead of it being a tragedy. You actually grew and became better because of it.
Exactly. So I was I had some very supportive friends that were some friends that were extremely supportive. Some others that it's a complicated situation.
Of course, yeah.
I can't go hang out because my brain is broken. People are like, well, I don't know what does that mean? It's like, I don't know. I'm not a neuroscientist.
Yeah, if you don't know what a concussion is or how it can affect someone, people have headaches and they don't want to go hang out. So I'm sure it's relevant in some sense. So, Rich, what kind of is the process like when you're creating your product?
Well, to answer your other question first.
Yeah,
sorry,
sure.
But
okay.
my to get to creating my product, I essentially I found gut health as a solution to brain health, which there's like a massive emerging area of science where the gut has a gigantic impact on the brain. There's neurological connections, there's hormonal connections, there's all kinds of stuff. It's a deep area. We could spend an entire hour talking about that all by itself, but we won't because we got lots of stuff to talk about. But anyway, I was like completely like enamored by just the connection to the gut and the brain. And I was like, wow, this is the coolest thing I've ever heard of. Like, what does this mean for like sports performance? What does this mean for my own mental health and brain health right now? So I just dove into that, read a couple books on neuroscience, read a couple books on neuroplasticity and the gut microbiome, obviously, and then essentially changed my entire perspective of what it meant to be human, what it meant to eat food, what it meant to be healthy. It's like I just had this brain-centric, neurological-centric perspective on life afterwards, because I was spent so much time like having to deal with the limitations of like my brain state at the time.
Right.
That like I was like, okay, every time I leave my room, I have to be concerned of, okay, what am I going to go do? How is it going to affect my brain? Is it going to make my symptoms worse and then prolong my recovery? Or am I going to get just the right amount of like sleep and food and exercise in so that I can come back and recover as efficiently as possible?
Yep.
And that sounds like not the sexiest thing in the world, but unfortunately for some, that's all some people have. And you got to use every calorie, every second counts in some cases like that. But anyway,
Keep
after changing like the way I thought of food and the way I thought of the gut and the brain, I always had an eye out for gut-friendly products. So things like kombucha really caught my eye. Kefir definitely caught my eye at the start, but I was like, it's just super yogurt water. I was like, I don't know really. I saw lots of the stuff on the shelf at the grocery store, but didn't really think much of it. Definitely like huge fan of smoothies. Was making smoothies forever. Lived out of a Vitamix blender for like the last decade essentially.
Yep.
Big fan, huge fan.
Yeah.
Vitamix blenders are critical parts to the Kefir Liven making process.
Are they like a industrial
They are
blender?
the staple.
The blender?
Yeah, they are. I have
blender.
two like restaurant grade quality Vitamix blenders. Run both of those to make my coconut milk. To basically blend up coconut and water and make my cold pressed coconut milk from scratch with them. Like when I was going through all of my concussion stuff, I really was kind of concerned with like obviously eating super healthy, getting enough macronutrients in, because your brain is like made of predominantly omega-3 and healthy fats, and amino acids is so important to mental health. There's a bunch of different neurotransmitters that really need omegas and all of the amino acids. So I was like, damn, why can't I find something that's gut friendly that has healthy macronutrients in it? Like, I'm a human, I need to eat macronutrients to survive and maintain like healthy like body mass and muscle mass and stuff. So like where is the gut friendly macronutrients? Like I can't see any. I didn't see it on the shelf. It was always something I'd really wanted. It was kind of more intuitive though. Like I didn't like specifically say like, oh, I need 15 grams of protein in a probiotic drink right now or I'm gonna die.
Right.
But it was definitely something I was like, I feel like there's something missing on the shelf. Like I'm looking around and I'm thinking like, the thing I want isn't here. Like I'm not quite satisfied. And apparently that's how most people that create products think whenever they're looking at whatever space that their product belongs in. Middle of the pandemic, I have the opportunity to think for a little bit in the lockdown, and had some time to create and iterate, and just happened to have a Kefir culture, and I was thinking like, man, something like this would have been really cool to have a little while ago, and then just got to work making various creations and just spent the whole summer of 2020 just making different mixes and trying a bunch of different ingredients and trying a bunch of different fermentation styles and equipment, and landed on protein shake and a naturally fermented protein shake, which I kind of wasn't too sure on at the start, but after getting some samples out there and having some people try it, people liked it. I liked it. It was tasting really good.
It's popular.
Yeah. It blew me away. I didn't think it was going to work as good as it did. The initial version was made with milk. Like biologically, Kefir's evolved. Kefir, like the mother culture, has evolved to consume milk. Like you have to pull some tricks to get it to do other things. But it's supposed to be milk.
Okay.
So my first version was made with Scotsburn 2%. I was super excited. I was like, we're going to use local milk. Not that I'm thrilled with milk or anything. It was just it was just a necessity.
But that changed to coconut milk, right?
Yep. Yep, I learned how to make coconut milk. It's way leaner, lower calories, healthier fat, way more cost effective to
Right.
me and the
Okay.
end consumer. And it's obviously not a gigantic, extremely regulated industry with lots and lots of gatekeeping and loopholes that we didn't need to or could not afford to deal with. So my heart goes out to everyone that's in the dairy industry. It's very difficult. I learned a bunch about
Absolutely, I
it. I
bet,
was like,
man.
wow, how does this even work? But no, so in a nutshell, now what we have is a coconut milk, grass-fed whey protein, probiotic protein shake. So essentially, I make my own coconut milk, and then I make a protein shake with that coconut milk, and then I brew it in a craft beer fermenter that I've kind of customized, and then I bottle her up and slap my label on it, and we've sent dozens of samples away to get tested. We've got a little under 100 billion live cultures per bottle. We've got 8 different probiotic strains that we've had verified by like some of the most substantial labs in the entirety of North America. Super excited about that. Testing is ongoing. Like it's a very product development centric project. I like don't even really think of it as a business so much as just like development of a product first. Not to be creating forever and never go to work, but the like the amount of time and testing required to like bring a probiotic to market is like a little bit ridiculous, but we're there. So we did it. So we're here.
Unreal, man.
Yeah,
Unreal.
yeah.
I mean, that does kind of explain like the production process. Sorry for jumping ahead of you there
No, it's
a
all
little
good.
bit, but no, you explained it well. Like you explained kind of why you're doing it, you explained the production process. So, Rich, you were mentioning some of the flavors that you have. What flavors do you offer for the protein?
Right now, we've got a lovely vanilla coconut, which is just the vanilla protein powder that I use and the coconut milk that I make, and there's no actual flavor ingredient in there. And then with I have 2 flavors, lemon and vanilla. And with my lemon, I have a super clean natural lemon oil, which is literally just an oil from squeezed lemons. Like there's no extracts, there's no weird ingredients. It's literally as natural as possible, and it gives it a super duper tangy flavor. The lemon flavor note just goes with the kefir tang so well. It's kind of doubling down on sour. So if you don't like sour, kefir's definitely not for you. But if you do like sour and you're into things that definitely let you know that they're alive, you got to try this.
Unreal, man. So, I mean, how do people incorporate your product into their lives?
First and foremost, it is a drink.
Yep.
You just drink it.
Yep.
But
But I've seen you put it in like
yeah, you can do all
cereal
kinds of
and
stuff with it.
and,
Oh
like,
yeah,
you mix it with yogurt.
yeah. You can mix it in with yogurt bowls. You can mix it with cereal, smoothies for sure. It makes a mean protein shake. If you want to add some Liven in with like a big old scoop of whey protein or your favorite plant protein, great way to have like all of the macronutrients that you need post workout, like with or in a gut friendly format. It's going to help you digest like a giant macro dose of protein. Which is essentially what I kind of designed it as, and like
Right.
wanted to take like a massive scoop of protein, but it's kind of felt a little weird on my gut. So if I could take it with a probiotic, which is literally like lactobacillus is one of the strains of gut bacteria that people are missing sometimes when they have a lactose issue. Certain strains of lactobacillus will make lactase, which will help dissolve and digest lactose, which is the sugar in milk, and there's a little tiny bit of it in the whey protein we use.
Right,
But most of it gets consumed during fermentation and just grows more lactobacillus. So it can be a bit of an aid for people that have a lactose issue. Definitely like consult your doctor first and try this very slowly if you are allergic to lactose. But it's helped me at least. 'Cause I used to have like really big issues with digesting milk and digesting whey protein, but since like being on the kefir for like 4 or 5 years now, not at all anymore. I feel
You've
great.
noticed a difference.
Massive difference. On top of that, like there's a slew of health benefits for kefir. The laundry list is kind of wacky.
What should people kind of generally expect as far as, like wellness improvements?
Definitely a lot less bloat. So like kefir
Okay,
is
yeah. IBS, stuff like that.
precisely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any digestion issue is going to be helped with kefir. It's just you're literally consuming a microbiome for your microbiome. It's an environment full of little tiny bacteria that help you digest your food. They also secrete a bunch of compounds that can aid your immune system. They can help with skin health. There's even like anti-cancer, anti-fungal studies that are out there. Like they like, by all means, like go and Google Kefir studies. Like you will be reading for a long time.
Yeah.
There is a lot of material out there. It's kind of wacky. Like you could see, like I could sit here and just list off all the claimed benefits that have been studied, and it would sound like I'm trying to sell the Fountain of Youth. But there's a lot of cool stuff. But mainly gut health. I'd say skin health is probably the next one. On top of that, this is something that I think is going on. I haven't really seen too many studies on it, but my hypothesis is kefir is an extremely like powerful culture. It's like my product release is like 8 or 9 different strains of probiotics, and they're all working together, and they will outcompete any other strains that are around them. Like I've seen studies where samples of salmonella have been administered into a kefir sample, and the kefir eats the salmonella, and there's no detectable traces of salmonella after like a few hours.
Interesting.
So like kefir will destroy the hell out of other bacteria
It'll
strains.
eat the shit out of that.
Yeah, they'll literally like it'll be like Yoel Romero versus
Or Alex Pereira or against anybody.
yeah. But anyway, so my hypothesis is kefir may be outcompeting bacteria strains that have colonized a user's gut microbiome to essentially eliminate negative effects of having an unhealthy gut microbiome, or what some might refer to as gut dysbiosis. When someone's gut microbiome isn't exactly functioning as it should, or it's been colonized by some less than helpful bacteria strains. So to boil like a bunch of biology down into a nutshell real quick, essentially like all of the different macronutrients like carbs and protein and fat, they all contribute to different strains, different species of like little microbes that live within us. So if you consume a ton of sugar,
which people do,
you're going to feed a bunch of bacteria in your gut microbiome. This is going to sound a little bit out there for some, but stick with me here.
But people can correlate sugar inside, don't feel good, brain fog.
Yeah, and that's precisely what's happening. Not to poo-poo on sugar, but sugar is extremely inflammatory.
Yeah, in excess, it's not good for you.
Sure. Yeah. But if you're consuming a bunch of sugar or a bunch of like greasy carbs, you're feeding bacteria strains that live on those foods. Now, those bacteria strains are going to proliferate, and you're going to grow a culture inside of you that is fed by something that's not good for you. So it's not a symbiotic relationship, but these bacteria can still take control of your mind by literally excreting chemicals that pass through your gut blood barrier, travel through your blood, and then pass through the blood-brain barrier, and then turn into another compound that makes you crave the food that put the bacteria in there in the first place. And this is part of it's like the chemical part of the craving cycle.
Sugar, the addiction.
Yeah, sugar, carbs, some kinds of fats can do this. So like my heart goes out to some people that are like, all right, they can actually be chemically addicted to some foods. And there's all kinds of science out there where like some sugar producing companies have, I don't want to go too conspiratorial, but I'm sure someone has looked into the gut science behind that and come up with recipes and ingredients that perhaps
why are there
make
so
these
many
things
dyes in, like Fruit Loops in America compared to Europe or Canada?
Something's going on. I don't know. Anyway, long story short, if you want to think about your food differently, if you want to feel about your food differently, consume a ton of kefir. Drink a ton of kefir. See how you feel. Like, it's not going to hurt you. It's only going to do good. But my hypothesis, in a nutshell, is kefir cultures may outcompete these less than helpful bacteria strains to stop that chemical craving cycle. So you stop bacteria culture from literally shitting in your blood and having that travel to your brain to make you crave the food that put that bacteria there in the first place. It can help stop that. I know myself, like, I don't crave like sugar at all. Any like greasy food. Like, I don't crave any of that stuff anymore. I used to a lot.
Yep.
Like you put a bag of chips in front of me and it is going down.
Absolutely, man.
Absolutely.
But since the Kefir game's been on lock, that's not a thing anymore at all.
Unreal. So it really changed your life, like in a sense,
Yeah.
at least like for your health perspective, and then of course you're running a business now, and that's in itself intense. So, of course, you're doing all of this. You've started the business, been around for 4 or 5 years. Thanks for all that information.
Absolutely.
Where is the business headed in the next few years?
I have been developing a super secret, super sweet new product.
Right.
Which
So don't tell anybody.
I'm not going to debut now, but cliffhanger.
Yeah.
There's a brand new
Maybe for
Liven coming
another-
out very soon, and
Okay.
it may be. I don't want to get too excited,
But give us a little bit.
but it may be like an evolutionary grade food product that transmits not only a bunch of healthy bacteria, but also an extremely impactful idea that I haven't been able to communicate very well.
And you're working in harmony with someone right now, right?
Oh yeah, we got a big old team here. Huge shout out to St. Vax, the Human Nutrition Department. We've been
Yeah.
working with Dr. Marcia English out of the Human Nutrition Department. She's been helping us out with a whole bunch of testing of several products at the university. We've been sending samples away to a bunch of labs, doing whole genome sequencing and what's called flow cytometry testing, which is basically like a way. It's like the most accurate way to count the number of bacteria cells in a sample. So it's super cool. I got to go into it a little bit.
Yeah,
Essentially,
of
what they
course.
do is they take a dye and they dye all of the nuclei of all the cells with this special reflective dye, and then they count all of the reflective dye in all the nuclei. I will totally butcher all of
That's
the
okay.
scientific lingo here.
That's all right.
But they count all of the cells by the cell with a laser because of this dye they put in all of the cells. So they can literally count a sample of bacteria by each single cell. And what we've found in our samples is that it's 50% more, or you find 50% more like bacteria concentration than you do with total plate count testing, which is the like benchmark enumeration method. So it's basically you'll find AFU versus CFU, or I can't even remember, active fluorescent unit compared to culture forming unit.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we've been running a bunch of tests to increase our bacteria counts, as well as like lean out the probiotic strains and get rid of strains that aren't extremely beneficial, and make sure we have all strains of lactobacillus that are extremely beneficial and well studied
Right.
for those health claims.
Yeah. So when it comes to health claims, like what validity do you have to support them?
Essentially, the way it works is we need to prove that we have very specific strains of bacteria. So like we need to prove that we've got Lactobacillus plantarum, Lactobacillus acidophilus. Like there's a massive list of probiotic strains that are listed on the Health Canada website as like verified. Health Canada agrees that these strains are for sure probiotic and will convey benefit when consumed in 1 billion CFU or more.
Right.
And we've found 8 different strains that are on that list, and a few that should be on that list right now is like, I mean, we're, like the scientific community out there is constantly finding new strains that could potentially have probiotic benefit, and Health Canada is always getting pushed to change their list around because the science is advancing so much. Like the last 10 years of gut health science has been off the charts, and a lot of scientists refer to the gut microbiome as like the next frontier of human health that could be one of the most impactful things we find out as a species in modern times. And my hypothesis is it's going to be because of the link between the gut and the brain. What you feed your gut directly affects your brain. You're not just feeding your microbiome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you know, a brain can be like an environment of thought, also chemistry, and that's coming from what your gut feeds it. It's like you literally are what you eat. Yeah, you literally are what you eat.
Yeah.
Even I remember broke my arm along, like, not to get more sidetracked, but long story short, crashed mountain biking, broke my ulna in half, hitting a tree off a jump, and had to spend a few months recovering, learning all about how bones and the skeleton regrow and how the skeletal system works. So obviously trying to heal as fast as I can, because I needed to get back to work. Didn't really have a safety net at the time. Was super young, so I had to move things along as quick as I could. Thankfully, it's not like a load bearing bone. Ulna is the little bone that rotates around your radius, which is the big bone in your forearm. But still, one of the random facts that I learned on the you are what you eat thing is that, like, every 6 months your entire skeleton replaces itself. Just with cellular recycling. So, like,
every 60 seconds.
Every 6 months.
Yeah, but even 60 seconds.
Yeah, there's still stuff happening.
Yeah, millions of cells.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Unreal, man. So, again, all that's the good side of the probiotic game. What's been difficult about, doing this whole thing? Because I know we've talked about kind of the ups and downs of owning your own business and kind of doing it on your own with the support. But, kind of how's it been to, do this on your own?
This has been an absolute bloodbath.
Okay. Bloody war.
No, it's been it's definitely been a learning curve. I've definitely learned the curve. But no, there's definitely been some ups and downs. Developing a new product in Nova Scotia, like, it happens. People do it. But, like, this isn't California where startups are the norm and happen all the time. It's not like you can go down the street, walk into Y Combinator and try and pitch for $1 million, like, right now.
Unfortunately.
Like, those places exist out in California, though. So, like, there's a lot of thinking that you can access via the internet that can really help someone who's trying to make something new. Because what it comes down to is, how are you thinking about what the thing you're making? Like, who are you serving? What is this thing you're making going to go and do? Like, how do you make something that is what you want it to be and has your creative spice, but also is utilized and is useful to the consumer? It actually conveys value to the consumer, and does so at scale. Because like, my product is super duper niche, so for like a very small amount of extremely interested folks, that's been a challenge for sure. Small market size, that goes with most things in Nova Scotia, I think. Definitely studied like a little bit of economics to try and figure out, like, okay, what kind of environment am I going into here? The Nova Scotian market is definitely small. We're definitely in a bit of a precarious position in Nova Scotia, being at the end of the Trans-Canada Highway. Like, if you look at Canada on a map, the whole country is along the highway. So if you're going to make a physical thing, all of your all of your customers are along the highway. So it has to move. It has to get transported a lot.
And you're doing the transportation.
Hard to sell. All of your customers are along the highway, so it has to move. It has to get transported a lot.
And you're doing the transportation, right?
But like I said, like, this is a very product-centric product development project, where I'm just trying to make the coolest thing I can, something that will sell itself, something that people will understand, that they'll like, that they'll want to use, and something that, like, I can actually make conveniently and consistently, as convenient as possible. It's not really convenient at all, but it gets done. But distribution, I would say, is a gigantic barrier. Like Kefir, it has to be refrigerated. So
so
keep it cold.
That's a big issue too, right? Keeping it cool, transporting it. How does that work when you're trying to transport?
Very carefully.
You have a cooler and you're going from
multiple
town to
coolers and a freezer full of ice packs.
And you don't have a very big vehicle, so it's probably. Can you even see?
If
the
it
back
fits,
when
it
you're
ships.
driving?
Yeah. We get her done.
You can see out the back window.
Oh yeah, I got a big panoramic rear view mirror, so we can see. Distribution is a huge pain. But I mean, like, it's a pain for me. It's a pain for my competitors too, though. Yeah, you know what I mean.
But
so
I mean, that's all part of your game, right? Like, you've expanded, and is there like a limit to the expansion, or?
In ways, in ways. I mean, like, I don't want to. I mean, I'd love to, but I can't physically make a delivery to, like, Yarmouth and Sydney in the same day. So I've kept my sphere of distribution to like a network that I can handle because customer service is the most important part of running a business by yourself or running a business in general. You're there to serve a customer. You're part of a network. And at the end of the day, like you are going to be serving that customer. And if you want to have a long relationship with your customers, which you should, if you're in the business to have short relationships with customers, you're not going to be in business very long. So like I've definitely tried to bite off only enough that I can chew with the distribution, the customer service, and the wholesale game.
Right.
Yeah.
So obviously you're, 10 different places, like from here to Halifax, is it?
Yep.
That's quite a bit. So what's been the positive aspect of, owning a business like this?
Yeah. Let me tell you, man, I've worked in a handful of different industries, entertainment, industrial construction, residential construction, all kinds of stuff. And the health and wellness industry might be one of the most positive places that I've ever been.
It's all about self-improvement. Right?
Yeah, but like everybody's
trajectory
open-minded, and
upwards,
everybody's open-minded. Everybody understands that everyone's on a journey. Everyone's got a growth mindset. Everyone's open to hearing something new, which I think is probably one of the most overlooked things that there is. Like our appetite for new ideas and new things, and our openness is, it's absolutely paramount these days. Like the rate of technological innovation or innovation in literally any industry these days is so like outrageously fast
crazy,
that
man.
you have to be open to new things. And the space that I'm lucky enough to be in is very, very open. And I absolutely love it. It's such a breath of fresh air. Like everybody's happy to deal with, or everybody's pleasant to deal with. Everybody's in a good mood most of the time. Running a business is it is what it is.
People put their best face forward, of course.
For sure. Yeah. But it's just so positive. It's just really positive place to be. Like it's mentally healthy to be in the health and wellness space, even if it's part time, even if it's only a little bit.
Yeah.
Like even if you just like working part time at a gym or something like that. Like it's still just a nice positive place to be, I think.
Do you feel fulfilled?
I think too full sometimes.
Too full. Cup runneth over, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Shit.
Yeah, it's okay, but it's fine.
But yeah. Sorry, that completed.
No. What would you say to entrepreneurs that are looking to actually start their own business, something that has to do with the body and the gut?
Oh, geez. Probably don't.
Don't do it. Okay.
No, I'm joking. But there's like, if someone's going to start a company, like it's a totally irrational. You can find the answer to this question all over the internet, and like there's some good ones out there. But like, starting your own thing is kind of like a totally irrational thing to do because there's so much that's against you starting off. Like just bringing a new idea into like the market, especially in Nova Scotia. Like, God love all the citizens of Nova Scotia, but we're not the most open here.
We definitely are traditional in this area, and people like what they like. That's for sure. It's maybe hard to convince
little behind
people.
the times in some places, some folks, a little behind the times.
Yeah, which is okay.
But it's all good.
Sometimes hard to convince people.
Precisely, yeah. And sometimes you bring a new idea out, and folks are just like, nah, give me my Coke and Pepsi chips.
What I'm used
Get
to.
out of here. But definitely be ready for a lot of disinterest, a lot of being turned down. Like, you can't take anything personally. You really got to take a lot of responsibility for the fact that you're choosing to do this. So that means all the good and all the bad is all your fault because you made this choice.
Yep.
So you got to be open for everything. You can't take anything personally. Definitely show up with a stack of cash to support yourself, to support the needs of your company. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. There's a lot of things that would be nice to have, and just show up prepared. I would say with as many resources as you can possibly show up with. That's one of the mistakes that I definitely made. Is I kind of just completely sent it without really thinking about it too much down the line, and would love to have had a lot of really nice fermentation gear like a couple months in that I didn't have, that I had to kind of figure out on the spot. So preparation, but you can't prepare too much. You can't,
you have to
can't
kind
spend
of
all
start
your time preparing.
and
Yeah,
be a fool before you can become a master, and that's
Yep.
kind of how you learn what you needed,
Yep.
but you couldn't have known that
and
until you.
it all goes
of
along
course,
with
tried.
risk. Like at a
Yeah.
certain point, like you can prepare all day long, but at a certain point you have to jump, and that is
Yeah.
that's taking risk.
Yeah.
But prepare, be ready, be open-minded, be ready for some rejection, but also be ready to iterate. Like your idea is going to change. There's no good. I'm not aware of any good idea that has started off as a fully formed, like, first idea that needs to be made exactly how it came out. Ideas are going to change all the time. You're going to learn new things. And you got to adapt your idea, your plan, your business plan to whatever is changing in your market, in whatever environment. Like maybe your customer doesn't like the thing you started off with, but it looks super cool, or people really like it, but it doesn't look super cool. Or there's a million things you can change, product wise, business model wise, mindset wise,
Right.
and just be ready to change. And like I'd say the most successful products have changed the most. Like, what model iPhone are they on? It's not one.
Yeah.
It ain't the first one.
It's not the first one.
Yeah, they make a new one every year, and it keeps getting better and better and better every year. And you really have to have that mindset of, like, whatever you're making, you got to just keep making it better and better and better every year. And it's a constant cycle of iteration and a constant cycle of creation. And you got to be open to that. You never know what the right thing to make is going to be, so you kind of got to wander down like multiple paths a little bit simultaneously, which can be like pretty heavy on the mind sometimes. But it's worth it when you can make the thing you want that
Right.
works for the customer and they like it. That can be one of the most fulfilling things that I think is experienceable.
Epic, man.
Yeah.
Unreal, brother. Unreal. Unreal, brother. Unreal. I love that. I love that. Absolutely. So, Rich, let me ask you,
Yeah, buddy.
what's your next big goal? What's going on besides Liven? What do you have to look forward to?
Beside, like outside of work.
Yeah. What's your biggest goal besides your Liven experience?
Damn, I wish there was one.
Yeah, I mean,
no,
if it's
I've got a bunch of things.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to make a return to music. I used to be a DJ before I started making Kefir. Before I was heavily involved in the fermentation business, and I've spent a long time away from it, and I feel like I've done a whole bunch of grown up work now, and I want to go back and have fun and just do something just for the sake of creativity, like. For the sake of just enjoying it, like with making a product, like it's very purposeful, and at times it is very fulfilling, but at times it can be very mechanical, and sometimes it just doesn't have like the juice when you're just manufacturing away and trying to just run a company. It loses the spark sometimes. I mean, it's not always going to be there. Sometimes work is work. Sometimes you got to chop wood, carry water, but that's okay.
Yep.
That's how it goes. That's what you sign up for. But having something that's uniquely human, like music, and with lots of bass, huge bass head. Listened to bass house and drum and bass and house music forever. Heavily influenced by like electronic music, dubstep, and rap, and hip hop, and heavy metal from back in the day. If that isn't obvious already, but
because you were doing a bunch of DJing at the pub for years, right? While
Yep.
you were a student.
Yeah.
St. Events.
DJ'd at Piper's Pub for 2019 and 2020, a little bit of 2021. Did a little bit of the like DJ dinner party at the during the pandemic lockdown. That was weird, but it was still actually a good time.
Yeah.
But I might have a gig at Candid Brewery down on College Street.
Nice,
in a
man.
little while
Nice.
here.
Nice.
Yeah. Me and a few friends of mine have been putting together a little practice studio, and myself and my DJ friend Anna Inferno. Huge shout out at Anna Inferno. Give her a follow on IG.
Hey, Anna.
Yeah, we're sharpening our skills up to go play a gig at Candid.
Right.
No idea how it's gonna turn out. Haven't DJ'd at all in
Iron
like 4
sharpens
years.
iron, yeah.
Yeah. I've got a bunch of DJ equipment. Had a ton of gear. Got some big subwoofers and some lights and stuff, and really nice set of turntables. So gonna be supplying those, and gonna go have some fun and just hear some bass and hang out.
Sick, man. So
Absolutely.
DJing it up is something that you're hoping to do in the future. So like, what does Rich besides DJing do for fun?
Listen to lots of podcasts. I read a little bit. Work out a lot, mainly to stay sane.
Yeah, I feel you on that.
yeah.
I feel you on that.
Definitely, definitely moving as much as I can for that. Once the snow flies, hoping to get back into mountain biking. I've always had a downhill mountain bike or a street bike or a dirt bike or something, some kind of cycle. I've frequented many forms over the years. But right now I've just got good old 2009 Trek Session 88, and we go and shred up Kepik every now and then. Haven't been there in like a year and a half, almost 2 years, but the bike's working good again. So hopefully gonna get back out there and hit some jumps, have some fun. On the note of a goal, I'd love to spend some time and get dialed on hitting some great big gaps at some point and get some nice content of hitting some big air jumps, but we'll see how that goes.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. So, are you dating anybody? Are you single? Are you in a relationship?
At the
What's
moment,
going on?
I've been married to the game.
The game.
I've been married to work.
Nothing wrong with that. You're married to the game.
I've been very focused.
That's fair. I mean, like,
Yeah.
you are pretty, bombed by like work when I ask you like what you're up to. You're just like task saturated, or
That's my favorite term lately. Task saturated.
And it's a great term because just generally what you're up to. Yeah, you're usually up to it to your neck. And but I mean, like, how do you, when you're finding time, when you're so busy, what do you like to do in your downtime?
Downtime.
I mean, in
What is that?
The moments when you come home and jump under your bed and then wake back up. Is there a moment at all for you, like for yourself?
I do a lot of sleeping. I try to
Okay.
sleep like hardcore. I've watched a ton of podcasts on sleep recently. It's super important. So like,
It's
I'm
very important.
I'm not the guy waking up at 4 a.m. I am the guy trying to sleep in as long as I can. I'm trying to get every single second I possibly can.
I feel you.
Because there's just so much stuff out there. Like, sleep has been referred to as like the most like performance. If you could have it in a pill, it'd be the most performance enhancing drug there is. And probably everyone would take it, but since it's not a pill, nobody does.
Yeah.
But no, I've just been trying to get like at least 8 hours all the time. I really love to genuinely just make food and cook. I make tons of smoothies all the time, and I really enjoy like just making like crazy meal. I've been really dialing in my guacamole lately. Actually, getting a whole bunch of lime, cilantro, and a couple of spices here and there, and some like legit jalapenos and couple good ripe avocados and some super clean chips, like messing with a lot of the sweet potato chips.
Yeah.
But like, man, I will destroy a bowl of guac like real quick.
Man's gotta eat.
Absolutely.
A man's gotta eat.
Absolutely, man.
Unreal, man. Unreal. I mean, so Rich, what's the biggest risk that you feel like you've taken?
I really like this question actually. So I've actually thought about this a lot, probably an unhealthy amount. But I mean, at the moment, I'm like 5 years into, well, not really 5 years. It's like 4 and a little bit. It feels like 5 though. It definitely feels like, on the calendar. It's
You're right
5.
there, man.
Yeah.
You're right there.
But the risk of my time and risk of like, hey, I've put a ton of time into this thing and like it's working a little bit, but like we got a ways to go still. And it is still we've got a lot of traction with like a total MVP, like minimum viable product. Like if you, back to your question of like how would I advise an entrepreneur about to start out, like the concept of minimum viable product, like this thing has to be as minimally viable as possible, and you need to go make it sell.
Right.
that has that concept of like the minimum amount of moves, the minimum amount of thought in order to get to something with a label on it that can transact, and stripping out everything you possibly can. Really interesting, like thought process there, where like you can think of anything as a minimum viable product. I mean, go off on a tangent here for a second, but like if you have something to do at work and you just need to spend the least amount of time on it as possible and just get a usable version
Yes.
of this next work out as fast as possible. What are the least amount of things you need to do, least amount of people you need to talk to, least amount of words you need to say, least amount of thoughts you need to think if you want to get right to the nth level, to get this thing in construction, in production, and made and finished so you can look at it and examine for the feedback of
Right.
what does it need, what needs to be changed for sure. That concept like lives in my head rent free nowadays. Like I've spent a lot of time on this, and I'm thinking like, man, I got to make this pay off somehow.
That's always the worry with any endeavor that you take on and you really put both feet in. Is like, is it going to work out?
Yeah.
Am I going to be left? I don't think you'd be really worse off than you before you start. I don't think at all, because look at all that you've learned.
I
look
appreciate
at how
that.
you've grown. No, like really, like the
Sometimes
amount,
like when you're exhausted, you definitely don't think that clearly. So
yeah, man. And like I'm here to reflect that, to let you know that you are, doing well. And
appreciate you, homie.
Of course, brother, of course. And I mean, like, it's not supposed to be easy. That's the principle.
Right. If it was easy, everyone would do it.
That's exactly it. It's
Yep.
exactly it. Or else it would be just a participation award.
Exactly. And
Everybody-
also, if it's hard for you, it's going to be hard for everybody else too.
Absolutely.
So if you have competitors that are trying to follow you, like if you're like walking through the desert and it's like 115 degrees out, it's 115 degrees out for everybody. It's not just you. So it's also like a little bit of like, oh, we're all going to burn in hell.
How important is to have faith when you're going for something that you want?
Honestly, I like the way I like to think of this exact idea is like you have something that you're going to create. So it's an idea. It's in your imagination. It's very much an imagined idea that you have to bring into reality. And everything in between you imagining it and it actually being reality that you can slam on a table and hand to someone, that is all faith.
Yeah.
All faith,
Yep.
all belief,
Yep.
all of it. Like you need buckets and buckets and buckets of belief and faith. Like do not short that one at all. Like dump everything you got into that. On the note actually of mindfulness and meditation. Like I think that's where a lot of that designed thinking comes into play, where you have an invisible target that you're going to create before you land. You're taking a jump, a leap.
Your aim.
Yeah, and you are creating the target to land on.
Yeah.
Like you leave the ground, you don't have a target.
Yep.
You're in peak air, apex of your travels. You'd still, maybe it's forming. And that's all faith.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
man.
it's all
yeah,
faith.
because faith being that the good could be somewhere else.
Yeah.
It could be somewhere else, but you're choosing to put your attention into that. And that's that sacrifice that Dr. Peterson even talks about, that you're alienating other things for the pursuit of that thing that you want.
The term
And-
decision itself comes from the word decise, to make an incision, to cut.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Aim gives your life point.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, I mean, attitude, perspective, it's all very important, because the way that you think about a problem is just as important as how you do
It's like half of the problem.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
The perspective and the way you think about anything in life is like half of life.
Yeah.
Our brain is like, some people are like, oh, yeah, simulation theory, blah, 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 all this and that. It's like your brain is literally simulating your reality with all of the information it gets from all of your senses.
Absolutely, man.
So-
And what you fill it up with is how you approach your endeavors. So
Absolutely.
that mindset is how you approach everything in life, and that's how the ideas that come, whether you have opportunities or whether you feel life is fruitful or whether it's domineering, it all comes from that attitude, because attitude lends the experiences that we possess. Attitude lends the experiences that we go through the significance that they possess, right? And attitude is what gives our endeavors significance. And so it's almost more important, I found in some cases, because you look at like people like Muhammad Ali or John Jones and some of these greats, and you're like, what makes them like the best? You know, Tom Brady, Wayne Gretzky. You know, just the top. Of the top,
89-inch
top.
reach is pretty
It's
sweet advantage.
pretty good,
I don't
pretty
know.
good. Yeah, and like the physical like attributes, but it's a lot of. It's actually not a lot. It's all attitude, and
Yeah,
then
no,
like
it is. Yeah, jokes aside,
Yep.
like you have to be the champ before you can be the champ.
Yep.
You have to behave
and how
think.
important is it to not worry about being bad at something or to struggle, because like that's kind of the impetus behind getting great or becoming great. It's the fact that like you'll have to work with some flexibility, you're going to learn, there's going to be problems that you didn't anticipate, but you carry on anyways because you have the right attitude, understanding that these things are meant to help you rather than hinder you.
Yeah,
Absolutely, man. So do you have like a
I
particular
like to think of
Yeah,
it
yeah.
as like when you talk about being great or like someone who's performing and they're obviously in front of someone, they're under the lights of some kind.
Yep.
And you know what we do in private is what we're praised for in public is what we practice in private. So in private, you are supposed to be making all mistakes, or at least most of them, most of the time. Trying things, iterating on things. Is the concept of like iterating on the MVP for me is like I got to iterate on the minimum viable product. Like I'm gonna make 1,000 things that suck before I make one thing. Well, to make one thing that I can bring out to the market and hand to people and say I'm super duper confident in this. I'm not going to be concerned at all. Like I've spent all my time iterating, creating a bunch of different things that didn't fit what I wanted or what the customer wanted, and now I have something that I know will. I remember very specifically, like with DJing, like when you go to practice, it's not going to sound good.
Yeah.
Definitely not the first time. You're
Yeah.
going to be there for hours and hours and hours of, oh, maybe this song and this song goes good together. No. Maybe this song and this song goes good together. No. Like over and over and over and over and over again. Like majority mistakes. But then you boil like 15 songs down into like a 5-song mix that sounds freaking sweet. And now you have a set for life that's going to be in your memory, in your playlist forever. And it's always going to be there to sound good. You're going to be able to whip it out when you see someone enjoying themselves that you think might enjoy that kind of tune. Or if you think it fits the vibe, then you've got a tool for that problem. But yeah, it's mostly iteration. That's one thing I've definitely learned with this whole product making journey is like making a product is making a creative work, not even just a product, but like a creative work of any kind. The more iterations, the better. The more mistakes, the better.
Yeah.
Like we don't use the iPhone 1 through 7 anymore. I mean, maybe if 7 will still work, but the early iterations, like they're not relevant. You know what I mean? Like sure they were groundbreaking in their time, but like you had to have those early iterations to get to the versions of the creative work that you have now.
Right.
I like the iPhone example because like everybody knows what an iPhone is.
Yeah,
I don't even use an iPhone. I don't like iPhones. I'm a Google Pixel guy. Google Pixel all day.
Yep.
But I still cars are another good example. Like no one's riding around in a 99 Honda Civic anymore.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? They make a new one every year. So to someone who is thinking out there, to that person that I know is watching this, that's thinking of making a thing, whether it's a podcast or a work of art, a painting, a poster, a product, a business, a speech, or whatever, like iterate, like multiple times. Do not expect to have like attempts 1 through 5 like suit your fancy or be what you want. Like the more iteration, the better. You're gonna learn not just like what you want to see. You're also gonna learn how to create what you want to see. You're gonna learn more of your craft. You just get more opportunity to train. And like if you want to boil it right down to the bare bones first principle of biological, like your mind is going to get better. Your brain is going to continue to expand connections between neurons and grow thicker connections between neurons the more you train. That's what happens with athletes.
Yep.
That's what happens with anyone who's good at anything. Is they're literally growing mental muscle. There's neurological connections that are strengthening and growing just like muscle fibers.
Yep.
And if you're practicing a skill, you are enhancing and growing the hemispheres of your brain that are used in that skill. And it's no different than going to the gym and
Yep.
trying to train until you can squat three plates.
Absolutely.
Like you got to start with one, and then eventually you get to two, and then eventually you be able to do like a good 315 single squat or something like that. And you're literally growing capability.
It's
literally.
compound interest, man. Yeah, you just get better over time. It's like strengthening the muscle.
Yep.
Eventually, you'll start to be better. You know, you don't shine underneath the bright lights. They only reveal the work you did in the dark, you know.
Absolutely.
People see kind of the fruits of your labor, but they don't see all the connections and all the networking and all the hard times. They only kind of see you like on stage at the farmer's market. So, you know, it's interesting to always get a little bit of perspective and like that people obviously have to work really hard to make these things look easy.
Oh yeah. If anyone's making anything look easy, they've done it for a very, 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 very long time. And on the note of like underneath the bright lights, most of the time, folks that are really, really good at stuff, like most of the time, they'll show up when they're ready.
Right.
You're not gonna like a lot of the times, like you won't see like John Jones showing up unprepared.
Yeah, no, you
for
don't.
an example.
No, you
for an
don't.
example.
And that's
I'm sure
why,
he could do quite
absolutely.
well by himself.
And
but
if
whatever.
anybody's worried about anything, like concerned about, you know, doing something in the future, the only way to combat that is to prepare. Because if you're nervous, well, yeah, you might be nervous in general, but you're going to be 10 times as nervous, tenfold nervous if you haven't prepared for that thing, right? It's so important, man. So for someone that's 5 years down the road now, what would you have said to yourself beginning, knowing what you know at this point?
Oh, geez. Save more.
More money?
Show up,
Yeah.
show up with more savings.
Yeah.
I think that's like probably specifically
That's
a
a
business
hard
case
thing,
though. That's
yeah.
and not everyone has like crazy resources. So
Yeah.
I did the best I could on that one, but still it would have made things a lot easier. But anyway,
Of course.
be prepared in a nutshell would be what I mean by that. I would definitely say don't get attached to literally any part of the mission except the main idea,
Okay.
which would be
Meaning?
to expand self-awareness through gut health. It had such a profound impact on me that I can't unsee the fact that it only did so because I am a human being.
Yes.
Thus, it can impact the same perspective can impact others strictly because they are the same species as me,
Yeah.
which I like because now my market size is the whole world.
Of course, because we talk about that even in reference to meditation. So
Yeah.
the idea is that like our biology, our neurology, we react quickly to things. We are, you know, not so thoughtful. We're, you know, negative when it comes to ourselves. But does the process of ingesting this probiotic, it obviously helps with, once it hits the gut, how you think about yourself. That kind of normal reaction that you would normally have under times of stress, where you are being negative and you are quick to react and you are stressed. I'm assuming it alleviates that and kind of you're
In
able,
ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, in ways. There is, first, protein is made of amino acids. And which one is it? I think it's oxytocin comes from or is built on an amino acid. I know dopamine is built on amino acids. So you need protein for dopamine. You need. I'm pretty sure. I'm like 90% sure.
We'll double check that.
You might have to Google
yeah,
this one,
it's
but
all
I'm pretty sure oxytocin which is the love chemical, the love hormone. I'm pretty sure that is built on an omega or on an amino acid or an omega-3. I'm not sure, but amino acids in general are used for so many like neurological processes, like as the chemistry that goes back and forth between neurons, synapses and I don't know. My short-term memory's pooch today. I drank too much coffee this morning. But anyway, lots of neurotransmitters are made from protein. And then kefir is uniquely beneficial to your immune system. It really boosts your immune system. It partly tests your immune system, and it partly helps your immune system by essentially fighting off invaders alongside your immune system, because there's a bunch of live microbes that are going to live within you that are extremely resilient. They're extremely resilient to your digestive system, your stomach acid. They live and grow in stomach acid or in low pH acidic environments. And kefir is anti-inflammatory, so it can help curb chronic inflammation, which most people have. If you're living in 2025, you're definitely inflamed somehow, unless you're a perfectly fed athlete that does nothing but eat, sleep, and train and never consume any toxins of any kind. Then you've probably got some inflammation going on. Kefir is helpful with that. So on that paradigm, it can kind of help calm people. Calming isn't necessarily the main thing, but it can help. The advent of helping to repopulate the gut microbiome long term, it's in terms of an acute aid to calmness, it can, there's a bit of an argument there, but for a long term help towards staying calm, having a healthy gut microbiome in general is probably the best way to go, because you're going to remove all kinds of essentially parasitic bacteria cultures that live within you, that are literally shitting in your blood and trying to crave food that feeds them.
Replacing it with better cultures, better bacteria.
You're literally killing off a bunch of strains that are living in you and making a home out of you, and you're replacing it with stuff that helps your immune system, helps you fight off all kinds of diseases and anti-cancer things and anti-neurodegenerative disease things. In that way, it can kind of help calm you. It can kind of help with sleep a lot too. And with aiding digestion, you're going to get more efficient absorption of nutrients. And that is going to be extremely helpful when it comes to replenishing all of or everything you do in a day, or healing from workout, for example. In terms of calming, though, I also think the concept of I'm going to consume this tiny environment of microbes to feed my own environment of microbes, and that's going to help me think clearly, make me more resilient towards disease, hopefully help you live longer and help your skin look a lot cleaner, and help with digestion, nutrient absorption, and your metabolism and your hormones. Those will all combine over the long term to help keep someone calm. And then I think the main advent of just self-awareness that comes from I have an environment within me, and if I give that environment good things, I'm going to think clearer, I'm going to feel better.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That just knowing that that's possible. If I don't feel well now, I can feel well later if I make different choices based on the fact that I'm aware that there's an environment that needs caring for.
Based on your actions. Absolutely, man. What's some of the best advice you've received during this journey, Rich?
Oh, man. There's all kinds. Going back in the files now here. Learning about the way people think and consumer behavior is a double-edged sword of making me feel extremely hopeful for the future and also losing faith in humanity at the same time.
Kind of looking into the human nature side of it.
Absolutely. And because I'm making a product that's good for people. So if you decide to try this thing, it's a good choice. There's 0.8 grams of sugar in it, bunch of healthy stuff, listed it all already. But there's no argument for it being a bad choice, or the least amount of argument. I'm sure someone can find something. It's definitely a good choice. And to see why people don't make good choices is definitely something that lives in my head rent-free, tight out.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
And to learn about what it takes to
have someone make or a group of people or a target market to make good choices. It kind of gives me like a bit of hope for humanity, because it's like, yes, there is a lot of like bad choices out there, but we're constantly getting smarter and smarter and smarter. Like, look at what's happened just since the pandemic. The proliferation of communication through the internet has absolutely exploded. Like, look where we are now compared to where we were in 2020.
Yeah.
Like literally communicating.
Yeah, look where we are now, literally.
Exactly. We're literally communicating through the internet. And that's happening. It's only going to happen more and more. It has been happening more and more. It's definitely like towards peak maturity, I think, at this point. We can share helpful ideas to the greatest extent that humankind has ever seen. And that's definitely something that I want to help out with. With this new product that I have, I'm going to be able to complete a story and complete an idea that I think is going to be uniquely impactful at multiple levels of just how people think about food and Nova Scotian products and health in general.
Yep.
Super excited about that. I know it's a business goal, but definitely still super
Absolutely,
more
man.
excited for that than I am
Absolutely.
for anything else at this point right now. But I don't even remember what your initial question was.
Yeah,
What was it?
no, you answered it well, man.
Okay,
you answered
sick.
it well. But my next question is, what qualities do you admire about people that you meet, like when you're, selling your product at the farmer's market or when you engage with people? What are some of the qualities that you ultimately admire about people?
Resilience and like endurance. I've maybe not from like, well,
Because you're very
being
resilient and determined, clearly. Yeah.
thank you. Being in like the business environment and getting to talk to other business owners is probably one of like the most relatable experiences I've ever had. Like growing up, I've always been into like super duper unique, very, very niche interests all my life. And definitely like straight up like got made fun of for having like super duper unique interests that don't fit in with everybody else and stuff like that. And always felt like an extremely unique person. Definitely like felt like the weird odd one out for multiple points throughout my
But
my
you're
childhood.
very affable, gregarious, for sure, man. Like,
Thank
you
you.
get along with most people.
Thanks, man. I appreciate
right?
that. But now, getting to meet other entrepreneurs that are going through all the same things that like I am, I've never felt such a like powerful connection with other creators, and I just felt like I've found like exactly where I'm supposed to be, or
Right,
or
so
at least like the
you're
other
kind
people that
of-
I'm meeting are so damn relatable.
Right.
And it's just I've never would have imagined
People
that.
of like-mindedness.
Yeah,
same goals.
yeah.
Yep.
And when you're in a position where you're out there creating your thing, whether it's a podcast or your music or food or a product or a business or some kind of public speaking thing, there's so much goes into creating something for others that you kind of get along with you get along with everybody that also creates things for others, but it takes so much thought and preparation and it's such a very specific kind of way of thinking that you have to have in order to like empathize with whoever is going to use your thing or receive your content or whatever, and then you kind of make it how you want versus what they want, so you're not optimizing for just user feedback. You've also got like vision in there too,
Right.
and like that back and forth, like it just I feel like it puts like a unique setup into someone's mind, and whenever you meet it in someone else, like it feels like there's just more to connect to,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
But like like I've met a ton of business owners from all over the world now at this point, and man, there are some gnarly humans out there.
Yeah.
Like absolutely gnarly humans out there, and it's equal parts humbling, inspiring, and like damn, like I could do this.
Right.
You
Right.
know what I mean? And that's been just a massively profound experience to see. So that's always keeps my spirits up.
Unreal, man. That's Yeah, that's really beautiful, Rich. So I'm kind of, from what I'm taking from that, it makes me want to ask, do you have like a religious faith? Do you believe in a higher power or anything? Or are you your own church, as some would put it?
The Church of Rich. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I don't know anyone who puts it like that.
Well, that guy does.
Okay, yeah. I don't really have like a specifically articulated religion that I would assign.
Spirituality.
Yeah,
perhaps,
I mean, for sure, there's definitely something going on that we cannot scientifically explain. I try to keep things as scientific as possible for the sake of limiting argument, essentially,
yeah.
and compressing definite known knowns into a usable form so we can move forward. Because I feel whenever there's an unknown that you can't like coin or measure, there's going to be conflict around it.
Right. Right.
And a lot of the times, what I've noticed is that conflict will reflect the positions of the people that are arguing. I'm going to argue this way because it's good for me.
Of course.
I'm going to argue that
Yeah.
way because it's
Yeah.
good for me.
Yeah.
So no truth in entails.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you can't necessarily prove whether there is or is not a God.
But there's definitely
but
something
there's-
going on.
And I'd say
There
there's
has to be
evidence.
something going
I'd say there's evidence, but proof. But yeah, I'm personally, kind of a mixed bag. I guess you could
Yeah.
say like a little bit secular. In
Very
a
very
sense.
Jeet Kune Do about everything.
Yeah. Like I mean, I can't explain at all the rationale or like the truthfulness of like whether someone like dies and comes back to life. But like that's kind of like the part where like I have a hard time, like at least with like Christianity. I read a bit of the Quran and stuff like that, but ultimately, I think I have like a secular faith with Christianity and then like a mixture of Buddhist like practices as well.
Yeah. I think they've all got all of the very structured religions of the world. They probably all have something that's a useful idea. I mean, I like to throw a martial arts analogy onto religion verbatim, like word for word. Look what happened with the UFC. This amalgamation of styles came together, and weaknesses were exposed and strengths were exposed of a bunch of different martial arts from all over the world. Some that people were literally religious about. And what happened? You had an evolution of physical kinetic human intelligence. Like the bag of tricks that were known grew.
Right. It's like information going from east to west.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone found out, we all know, everyone found out, jiu-jitsu is an absolute must. If you do not know jiu-jitsu, you are completely hooped.
Yeah.
But Taekwondo, karate still have some sweet kicks.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And you got to, regardless, you got to know how to put them all together. And I think if I was like, if I was arrogant enough to make a prediction, I'd say the same thing is going to happen with all religion because of the internet. Now that we can communicate all of our beliefs, maybe not just religion, but all of our beliefs, we can find out if we can communicate truthfully and honestly and openly without having anyone's positions or any kind of red tape take over, and everyone can be civil, then we can have an honest conversation of what parts of our belief system work best and why. Like, I'm sure there's going to be psychological and neurological implications for both, why they work good and why they work bad. And I think maybe in a couple of years, a couple decades, hopefully sooner than later, something that may look like religion may emerge in like a structured way of thinking and maybe behaving. And hopefully it'll be something that is just creates humans that are more evolved towards cooperating and working together and healthier. Specifically mentally healthier, I'd say.
Absolutely. Man.
Because I think mental health is the pandemic that goes unseen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true, man. And a lot of times it takes sometimes when you run out of answers, when you run out of things to do for yourself, a lot of people do depend on that, higher power that can be there to kind of support them. You can turn a bad situation to a good situation without ever really changing
By
the
changing your
situation.
attitude, yeah, by
without a-
changing your
with a-
attitude.
But with it, yeah, literally with just changing your attitude, you can change your whole life, and that's so important, man. But I wonder, family, uh, like your dad and mom, like are they still alive? Are they in your life, or How important has it been to have like support from your family?
Um, they super supportive parents. They've definitely been cheering me on with the business thing. I had my life started. The theme of my very very young childhood was my parents' divorce. So conflict dominated the early formative years of my childhood.
Right.
And the way I dealt with that was turning to martial arts to
Right.
solve mental health issues,
Right.
and extreme sports to solve mental health issues, and to solve like being afraid and being open with conflict and
And martial arts is spiritual, man, isn't it?
a
Spiritual as
1,000%. Well, you were
Man.
confronted with the truth of what it means to be human.
And there's more to you
Yeah.
than meets the eye, and it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
literal Jacob's ladder progression, and you're just like, whoa, this is the idea of a martial art, because a coach will push you past kind of what you've ever like experienced before, and you'll find out that there's way more to you, and that it's accessible. It's not something that's like outside of us. It's something that's inside, right?
Yeah, and that ability to grow and change. It's literally verbatim neuroplasticity at play.
Yeah.
In the motor cortex, where it's visible and people can like grasp the idea of neuroplasticity probably as fast as you can anywhere else. Like
New experiences change your
if you
brain.
can learn a skill, if you can learn how to throw this kick, maybe you can learn how to throw this other kick. Maybe if you learn how to move generally, you can adapt to jiu-jitsu, or you can adapt to wrestling, or you can adapt to Muay Thai, because like you're just expanding your motor sensory cortex, and you're just growing more brain. What was your question?
Yeah, no, like
Family
I mean,
support.
just that's
My
endeavor is beautiful.
I had martial arts backgrounds on both sides of my family. Actually, my granddad on my mom's side was a Golden Gloves boxer, and my dad was a Golden Gloves boxer in Alberta, way back in the day. So I think genetically just gravitated towards martial arts. Straight out of the box. I didn't expect that to be a thing.
Yeah.
Definitely grew up like getting picked on a lot, and totally saw like very clear utility in martial arts, and which there is a lot of utility when it comes to bullies. I think it's the solution when it comes to getting picked on. You want to equalize that playing field, but then what happens is you bring everyone to the communication table once there's serious consequences for physical alteration. Now all of a sudden everyone wants to talk.
Yeah,
Which is a good thing. It's a good thing. You're going to communicate,
being capable
and you're going to
stops
cooperate
violence.
now.
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
Yes.
And it does. And we're seeing it geopolitically. Like if
With Trump,
on all parts of the world, if you
yeah.
have a gigantic difference in capabilities, one person's going to have a massive advantage and very little consequences.
exactly
and that's
what's
not
happening
bad.
with tariffs
You
right
can't.
now. Yeah.
You really can't trust people with that power. Like
Yeah.
still in 2020
Absolutely.
or 2025, whatever year we're on.
Yeah, whatever year, but
Still feels like
but
2019
You're
to
right.
me.
You're right. The strength prevails, and it is.
Yeah, it does. It still does. Like we are still, like, even though we all exist on the internet 90% of the time, we are still 3D physical beings, and you can't change that.
Have you ever been in an altercation, physical altercation? Have you fought in your days, like in your time back in the old days? I mean,
Only in sanctioned events.
yeah. But you never got in a street fight or anything like that.
I've definitely had to figure out how to deal with some situations for sure.
It happens a lot with boys.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's part of growing up as a guy. And if you actually, I would say there's a danger to not experiencing that as an adult man. I think you need to have some sort of experience using your body to keep yourself safe.
Yep.
Like, let's be straight, folks. Don't hurt anybody, but it's inevitable that bad people will exist.
Yeah, yeah. And you only understand it more as you've gotten closer to being it, to pushing yourself, or to even being able to, um, act, make it actionable. This violence. Once you've practiced that time and time again, and you've sparred or you've competed or whatever, you understand that there's a level of responsibility that goes.
Oh,
into it.
1,000%.
Because you can really hurt people.
Yeah, absolutely. And like most people don't deserve that.
Yeah,
like what you're
absolutely.
capable of. And it actually you realize it takes like quite a bit to deserve the full extent of what you're capable of. And 99.9% of the time, you'll probably never use some of the things that I'm sure we both know, which is a good thing. But every now and then, you're gonna run into somebody who may deserve it. So you need to know a little bit.
Sometimes
anyway.
you do get in situations where
Yeah.
a man's got to do what a man's got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, man. That's unreal. So, Rich, I'm wondering again, just back to the family part because I got a little bit off there. Just wondering, were your mom and dad ever like, or as far as like honing the family, were they religious at all? Or
My dad was from Antigonish, so grew up here. Grew up coming to Antigonish on the weekends. Did the whole like split life thing. 2 Christmases though, 2 birthdays.
Right, because
Some
your parents
ups and downs. Yeah.
They split apart. At
Yeah,
some point.
super early. So I was always traveling back and forth between Musquodoboit Harbor, which is outside of Halifax, and Antigonish all the time, and got used to the 2-hour drive. So making Kefir deliveries, it doesn't really seem like a big deal. It's driving to the city. Been doing it forever, but like I remember when I was a kid, like Sunday morning, we are going to church and we are dressing nice. And we are going to the big old Catholic cathedral on the hill there, which was a very foreign experience to me. Like growing up with mom predominantly, and then coming here and very orderly, very, very religious. But it was eye opening. Like I was thinking, like after growing up, thinking like, damn, like all these people kept this like organized way of being alive for so goddamn long.
Yeah, man.
Like
It's
through
crazy
all
when
of
you
the
think
ups and
about
downs and the new like it's part like on one side of like my like experience, like new ideas are obviously not just completely necessary, but where a lot of good and new capabilities will come from. But there's something to be said about like an idea or a doctrine
Inspiration or being
that-
moved.
that has an organized religion that has maintained like itself for literally hundreds of years.
And from the biblical corpus, like that literally means, like becoming something more, right?
I mean, from the perspective of like this idea has persisted for so long.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, goddamn,
Yeah.
that's very interesting.
And nuts, right?
Yeah.
Nuts. Yeah.
And because I mean, I'm obviously thinking from the perspective of like, how do I have a company that persists over time? Because it's going to be a set of guiding principles and a way of thinking that needs to be passed on to keep creating products like we want.
Right.
And to see that there are forms of an organization that has been able to pass on the way of thinking for so long is very, very, very interesting. Because how do you take that and have like an old idea like adapt to all of the new things that are coming out all the time and still maintain the
so
main
subtle but yet so implicating. Like they're really on point depending on like which story that like you follow, whether it's you could even look at like the life of Moses and just how people go through like different stages. Like he killed a guy, runs off. Yeah. Moses killed a dude because he saw the oppression that was happening in Egypt. He goes out into the desert, meets up with like Jethro, takes a few people back with him, frees the Israelites, goes back out into the desert. They go through, but like that guy had so many trials and tribulations. So that it's just that that there are like chapters to life. Like you can.
There really are. Yeah, that's a good way to.
You know what I mean? Like it's not like what freed you will keep you free. Like there's points in your life and it'll change. And I've like actually been reading Jordan's book like a lot over the last few weeks. And there's like a point when he does talk about Moses and just how like when you're moving from like there's going to be different versions of you.
Oh yeah.
And the bad version is a part of like kind of all of our stories at some point. Not, you know, like to be malevolent or, you know, murder or anything like that. But the times that you struggle aren't, you know, what define you. They're just part of the process. But it's natural because if you can learn from those moments, you'll progress into something better. And that's kind of like what I love about the story of Moses, because I didn't really know that until I've been reading the book. And it's funny now, as I'm getting older, I'm kind of like focusing more on like the biblical stories and like what they mean and kind of like the contemporary nature of them, because it's funny when you have the philosophy and the psychology of Buddhism, but then you have the actual like theology and actual church of the Christian side. So you have those two things, but the funny thing is that like Jesus' story and like the Buddha story are like eerily similar. I don't know if you know this. So like Buddha was born
different adaptations of the hero's journey.
So yeah, Buddha was born. A spirit came to Buddha's mom, in an idea of like a dream, a white elephant. So this is essentially a god comes.
Okay, this is definitely new to me. So
Yeah,
I'm
so
listening.
like
All ears, bro.
this is like the idea of conception for like prophets. So like Buddha was conceptualized, like his mother and a spirit, like they have relations, and Buddha is born because of that. Well, Jesus is the same thing, right? Jesus is the Holy Spirit and Mary.
Definitely not aliens.
Right. He was his
Definitely not aliens.
the spirit, you know, intertwines with her, and that Jesus is created. There's also a star when Buddha is born. There's also the
from
Maggie,
space?
right? Well, there's a star whenever
Go
he's
on, go
born.
on.
It appears in the sky, and then when Jesus is born, that's how the Maggie find him through the North Star. Right? They go to him. It's really
Wait, dead GPS?
right. Yeah, of course,
I'm
man.
joking. Go on.
But it's super interesting that there are these similarities between like the two prophets, and it's like, okay, so like sometimes I wonder if it's just like ultimately like, you know, universal consciousness, and like sometimes stories can connect, or like I wonder if like there's some like story sharing or not. But it's just
Or
interesting.
is that the creation of said story the outer limits of a human ability to create and tell a story in general?
Yes. And you know, you don't want to think of it as like maybe it's a simulation or anything like that, because it's like, okay, if something happened, then it would happen again and again and again. But it is awesome to like think that like there's so many comparable things between these stories and these two great people and these two prophets that I never would have imagined. But there really is a lot of like correlation between the two. But anyways, Rich, maybe just a few more questions before
buddy.
we go, my man. Let's see here. I have a kind of a hypothetical question here for you.
Let's go.
So, a lot of people these days, I think, are like very hard on themselves. Yeah, I think it's like, you know, yeah, hypothetical.
Okay.
I think it's very literal, actually. But why is that, man? Do you think it's like just like we're domineering and we have to, you know,
Hard on
do
ourselves
more and
how?
more? Well, I'd say emotionally. Like, why are they always, you know, turning to like the negative instead of the positive in relation to themselves? I find a lot of people are struggling these days, and I'm just kind of wondering,
Yeah,
like, what's
I
your
totally.
perception?
I think I see the signal you're
Yeah.
talking about as well. I'd say, well, I mean, I think biologically, like from an evolutionary perspective, we're definitely wired to see negative as danger. And if there's a problem, like we need to be aware of it because it might hurt us. So to avoid danger, I think that that negativity is usually there in full force.
Yep.
And for sometimes it's probably alerting you of something's wrong.
Yeah.
Which, you know, is to be observed, taken into account, but maybe not seen as an identity, and splitting the two of this isn't who I am. It's just a feeling that's coming up because I have like a biological sensory system that's giving me this input for a reason. And just thinking through, okay, there's a reason, something's going on here. What is it? Asking some questions. That's what I try to do. Sometimes it doesn't work at all. Sometimes it does.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's really hard to carve out something that hard to carve out like an existence that doesn't involve some kind of negativity. Like the struggle will always be there, regardless. I mean, I know like times in my life when I thought I've had it all, and I have thought I've had nothing, and sometimes they don't really look that much different if you really get down to it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of perspective.
People sometimes don't know or can't recognize when things are bad or good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally.
And well, there's so much of the human experience is your attitude, because you're literally I like to think of it as you're literally writing the ideas that are in your mind, as if it's a book or like data saved. If you have ideas in your mind, they're going to be the ideas that are in your mind.
Yeah.
So if you're getting some kind of stimulus, you're going to bounce ideas off of the idea, or you're going to bounce off of the ideas that are already there. Usually, I don't know. Maybe that's too hypothetical.
Yeah, no.
But in terms of like being too hard on ourselves, like we do live in a world where, with the advent of the internet, like we can see everybody's everything all the time, and like the full spectrum of like what human life could be for some and not for others. Like
it's this comparable nature.
That comparison is getting gnarlier and gnarlier. And to tune out of that is probably the best move. I don't know what that means for the social media companies, but like we got to live in our own reality, and too much of like the infinite communicative ether is definitely not something we're definitely not designed for it. So like it's definitely gonna be messy, and I think like, to be honest with you, like the internet in general, I think is just so much more of a profound, powerful tool than people realize. Like basically everything that humans have ever known is on the internet, and a whole bunch of other random stuff that we've all made up. So, like it's an amalgamation of all the thoughts that we could think, essentially. And like, damn, there's a lot of content out there. So like use it with caution, because you don't need all of it. You actually probably you basically don't need any of it. There's probably like very few things on the internet people actually really need. And like I've just been trying my best lately to just like limit as much just like random stuff coming at me from the internet, and trying to curate things that I'm trying to go get.
Right.
Trying not to be distracted as much as possible. It takes a lot of self-awareness, because like there are whole like football teams of psychologists and neurologists that are on teams at Instagram and Facebook and all the social media apps. They all have teams of people that are reverse engineering their app from the perspective of like your literal brainstem. So it's definitely an asymmetrical situation for sure. And you got to keep that in mind. Like these products are products, and they are designed by people that just want your time, and they're not giving you value back. They're showing you whatever can fit on the little rectangular black mirror to keep you on their thing, so that they can keep pumping ad dollars. And it is, if you're looking at a screen, like there's a potential that someone's like trying to augment your brainstem at all times almost now. And you just got to be aware of that, and it's just part of the game, which partly is like, goddamn, someone's out there trying to brainwash us all the time for ads. But also, this is an opportunity to force more self-awareness into everyone. So back to your attitude thing, there's a silver lining here, in that if we take a step back and we realize what's going on, there's a benefit to be had to like realizing how our own minds work
Yeah.
and how we respond to different imagery and how like even shapes and colors can affect how we look through a page or what we click on next. And again, in a nutshell, I've just tried to like be very specific with I'm going on Google to find this one piece of information,
Right.
and I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna leave.
Yeah. And I'm out.
No notifications,
Yeah.
and I'm out. Or my favorite practice is like a YouTube watch later list. If I'm scrolling, I'm saving things that I like, I want to watch later, and then I'm out.
Yeah.
And then if I'm not scrolling to watch things, I'm scrolling through my watch later list to find things that I've picked because I think they're cool. And then I'm curating the list. Someone or an AI isn't curating it for me. Excuse me.
What's a quote you like to live by, Rich? Or any quote that
I got
inspired you?
one on my wall. John Wayne.
Sure. Go.
What was it? Courage is being scared to death but saddling up anyway.
Courage is being scared of death, but saddling up anyway.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Scared to death but
Hell
saddling
yeah.
up anyway. Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Even in the face of the unknown, you dive into that and you see what happens.
Yep.
You see what happens, man.
Yep. If you want to know a lot about someone, give them some form of unknown and try and get them to solve a problem, and they will fill the gap. They will fill that unknown with who they are.
Yep.
Which is one of the things. That's not a quote, but I've found that through creative pursuits with a whole bunch of people, and it is a weird thing. Like if there's a white space to create, people fill it with themselves,
And
which
it's
is
just
very
that,
interesting.
just taking that first step is all that matters, right?
Yeah, and like there's no perfect time to take the first step. Like if you're out to create, then there's going to be a million iterations. So just get stepping.
Just get stepping.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Well, Rich, is there anything that before we go that you would like the audience to know per se, or like where we can find maybe a new product or?
Yeah. Definitely go check out livenkefir.com, a new website I made over the summer. Would love feedback on the website. Going to have a membership program coming soon there, hopefully. Little subscription pre-order set up. So would love some feedback on the website. I'm also at the farmers market every single Saturday, Antigonish. Right now we're in the winter hours, so we're doing 10 to 1 right in the middle of the afternoon there. Also, wanted to make a huge shout out to the Antigonish Arts House. It's where my kitchen is.
Yeah.
Cultivating a community of creativity down there.
Yeah.
Absolutely love the Arts House.
Yeah.
Huge fan. Been there for about a year and a half now, and just an awesome place where people can come to create. They've got all kinds of classes, everything from drawing, painting, sculpting, dance classes. Huge shout out to the Arts House. Huge shout out to the Antigonish Farmers Market. All the local businesses around here. Shout out to the Sunflower, Angie from Fresh Food Matters, Nicole and Alex from the Waffle Bus, the folks at the Grindhouse. Everybody love everybody.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. That's wonderful. Yeah, shout out to Angela down at Fresh Food Matters. Shout out to the Waffle Bush.
Yep.
I've had both of those people, at least Alex and Angela, on the podcast. And,
Nicole's gotta come on. She'll have
Nicole
some-
is coming
that'd be
on.
awesome.
She is actually.
Yeah.
We've talked about that. But we'll get to that probably, sometime this winter or maybe during the summer.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, thanks again, Rich, man. I really appreciate you coming by, man, and finally having this chat with me.
Looking
telling
forward
the
to it
people-
since the first idea.
Yeah, telling the people about your business, and I'm glad that everything's going well. We wish you the best as you move into the future.
Hell yeah. Thank you very much.
With everything, and may you have a great 2025.
Absolutely,
And
you as well.
everybody,